Why the hell are we paying $70 for an incomplete game? Hello everyone, it's Jay, and if you read the title of my video, new games are trash. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm hating on every single game, but with games that are AAA titles that just come out and they are so incomplete that you can't even play the game. Take Star Wars for an example. Whenever that game dropped, it got a really bad review because the game was so incomplete that it was unplayable. Whenever you have games these days that are harping on the money factor, as in-game purchases, take EA's Star Wars Battlefront 2. Whenever it released, a lot of people were complaining about how much in-game purchases the game had, and in all honesty, it promoted gambling. Also, take Fortnite for an example. You can buy all these skins, but do the skins really make a difference to the gameplay at all? And you could say that GTA 5 was the start of in-game purchases, but it's been going on a lot longer than that. But GTA 5 really skyrocketed the trend, and that's just because people saw how much Rockstar was making off of GTA 5. They are in the billions of dollars just from in-game purchases like shark cards, and I don't really see the reason for all of that, other than like pretty much you're cheating. It's basically a cheat code to get better things, but that's about it, which to me doesn't make any sense why we can't just have cheat codes like we used to back in the day. But nonetheless, what really ruined the experience for me and why I think new games are becoming more and more trash was Cyberpunk 2077 of all things. Now, I did make a track that was pretty much based off the game, and I will leave a link in the description to that track. For the majority of that gameplay, I hated it. It was so terrible, and it turned me off to the game until they did a whole bunch of updates, and now the gameplay is at least a little bit more playable. Does that mean that my gaming PC or any other system really sucks and it just can't play the game? No, the game was not optimized correctly, and that's what we're seeing with a lot of newer titles. The game is just not optimized to go with any of the consoles that we have out now, like the Xbox Series X or the PS5, and it's not even optimized to go for any of the PC systems. You think anybody can afford the most high-end GPU on the market right now? No. And on top of that, even if you have the highest end GPU, you are pretty much screwed because the games are not optimized to handle anything whatsoever. You know, you really shouldn't be spending $70 on a video game and it is complete trash. Like, it is not optimized to run on your PC whatsoever, or your gaming console in general. You're spending $70 for a game that's just not it at all. And a lot of these developers for these newer games are saying that they'll fix the game with updates along the way. Like I said, it's a $70 game. Should you be paying $70 for an incomplete game, or should you be paying $70 for a completed game? And you see, it's not really the developer's fault in all this. It's more or less the higher ups that are pushing the narrative that we have to get this game out there as soon as possible. And whenever you have these AAA titles trying to push the graphics to the next level or the next generation of gaming, that's gonna have some delays in creating a work of art. See, gaming is a work of art. It's not something that you can just bank money off, and that's what gaming has become. Now, there are a lot of indie developers that I've seen come forward that have presented gameplay that's 10 times better than these AAA titles. And hell, I used to do a lot of Let's Plays on these indie developers' games because I just love the atmosphere of people coming up and creating weird and odd games that nobody has ever really put forward in the light. And some of them have actually taken off and have been signed by major developers. Take Cyberpunk for an example. That was an indie developed game back in 2014, and CD Projekt Red caught on to the hype of this atmosphere and bought it out because they knew it was going to make money. So that leaves the question, why would anybody pay $70 for an incomplete game whenever you can go to indie developers, pay them $5 to $10 for that game, and have a better experience altogether? The majority of these indie developers are creating really interesting worlds that nobody has ever really really seen before. I mean, hell, I'm going back in time to the OG Xbox, spending $5 to $10 on a whole bunch of games, and I'm enjoying my gameplay. Is it the best graphics in the world? No. I'm having a hell of a time because I paid $5 to $10 for these games, which I could have paid a little bit less than that online. I really didn't want to go online. But nonetheless, I'm having a fun experience. It is harping on my nostalgia, and it makes me sound like a boomer to talk about this, but the games are complete. The games don't need patches day one. The games don't need any updating whatsoever. They're completed games, and I paid $5 to $10 for them. Why not have a completed game for $5 to $10? With games like Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, the graphics are extremely terrible, but I'm having a hell of a time playing this game just because it's nostalgia. On top of that, most games from this time period offered cheat codes, which was a hell of an experience to have. All you had to do was look up the cheat codes on cheatcc.com, which is what I did whenever I was really little, and boom, you type in the cheat code and away you go. You have everything unlocked, all the things you need. You don't even have to mod the game in order to get the experience that you want. And hell, I'm even going back to the 360 era of games because that was the best gaming experience I ever had growing up, was the 360 era. I'm going back and playing games like Test Drive Unlimited or Test Drive Unlimited 2. For the most part, I have modded profiles because Modio is still around, which if you don't know what Modio is, you probably don't want to know because Modio is pretty much dead. But for whatever is out there still on these games on Modio, then you can still use some of the modded files that are out there. So that's what I have done with some of my gaming experience as well on the 360 is I have modded profiles. Not a modded console, just modded profiles that give me unlimited access to whatever I want to do. I won't get in trouble because nobody's really looking at these games anymore. They're not really online. The majority of them don't have an online interaction anymore. Why would I get in trouble for modding a game that is no longer active anyways? See, this is why I'm going back in time on gaming, because I'm having a hell of a time just experiencing what people had created back in the day. And some of these games have held up in time. Every game nowadays is basically copying Fortnite because Fortnite was so damn successful in 2015, 2016. But with older titles, every game was unique and different. There are a few games that were copying each other, but for the majority of every title that was out there for the older consoles, everything was different and unique, and nobody was really copying each other because it wasn't about money. It wasn't about who was more successful. It was about the experience that you had. Now, there's also a lot of emulators out there that you can test and try on your PC that will play PS1, PS2, PS3, Xbox Original, Xbox One, Xbox 360, whatever console you want. There's a lot of emulators out there. And even the newer Xbox consoles now can emulate games via Microsoft's backwards compatibility. There's not a lot of titles that were on the Microsoft's backwards compatibility list. See, like for me, I would love to experience Test Drive Unlimited and Test Drive Unlimited 2 on the Series X. And even with emulators, you can up the graphics to whatever you want, and older games will look as clean and crisp as newer titles. So what is the point of paying $70 for newer title games? And on top of that, these newer consoles do not have any good titles whatsoever. I have the Series X and I have yet to get any good titles other than Forza Horizon 5, which is still a copy of the original Forza Horizon. So you might as well just buy Forza Horizon, the first one, and have the same experience that you get with Forza Horizon 5. I was happy to get a newer console and I was happy to make a video on it, but since I have had that console, I have not used it for gaming whatsoever. It's just been a big media player. Whenever you have games that are $70 that are incomplete and you can't really play them on these new pieces of hardware, what's the point? See, for me, I'm going back and playing the Arkham games. And I've been playing them for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years now, but I haven't had time to play the majority of it. But for the most part, I'm going back and playing the Arkham games. And there was a controversy around the Arkham series a while back that the games were incomplete. And even then, in that time period, which was like, you know, in the 2015s, era. Games were becoming incomplete. And even before then, whenever you popped in a game or you popped in a disc to the 360, I remember having to do an update day one. But this is getting far worse than we can ever experience whenever the games are just becoming so incomplete that you cannot play the game. If you go back in time and you're not harping on the graphics that newer games are having, you will have a damn good time with cheats or mods or just the experience all around because the games are complete. Now, this will be the end of my video. If you happen to like my content, like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what you think. This is gonna be it, guys. I honestly think that $70 is not worth the hype.